one of the most important ones. And this is all about embracing ambiguity. So let me break down a stereotype that a lot of, and you may be looking, drop in the comments if you're looking at this live right now. You probably feel this way, right? If you're a salesperson, marketing person looking at this, you're like, yep, this is a common stereotype of finance. We love, as finance professionals, we love to be perfect, right? We love to be right. Like, we want to make sure we're right, right? And if there's any ambiguity, if there's any deviation from that, we get a little uncomfortable, right? Like when you're like, man, I this is perfect. This is ticked and tied to the tree. I've traced this out, and it's not that number, or it's not that outcome, or it's not that result that you've expected. Ambiguity comes in. This is where I think it's a superpower for us. Like, when we embrace ambiguity and we embrace change and we say, okay, it went a little bit different, either positively or negatively than what I assumed. Why? That's one of the most important pieces. When you want to embrace ambiguity in your business, there's going to be things that happen. There's going to be clients that leave. There's going to be uh, talent that you come in and you're just like, man, I thought this talented person was here to stay, or you thought you were going to get this, 6-figure contract and it moved out to another quarter. There's always going to be ambiguity and things that change, right? And finance teams, CFOs, FP&A professionals, fractional CFOs that are able to be flexible and have that agility and embrace that ambiguity, and you embrace the ambiguity from a learning perspective, right? So one of the things that we always have, and things change in our with our clients all the time. We're constantly working with high growth businesses, so that's that's one thing I love, and this is one thing my team always shares about working with growing businesses is like, it's always something new that you're chasing, right? There's always a new opportunity. There's a new challenge. There's a new frustration. There's constantly evolution in the business. So you got to be comfortable that that ice that you're sitting on sometimes may be a little shaky. It may be a little thin in certain areas, right? But coming from that perspective of learning about it, it's like, okay, we set this assumption out. It didn't necessarily, the result didn't pan out as we expected, but why? What did we learn from it? Like, what did the business learn? Where can we retool and make it better? Or where can we gain more insights? What was the key learning that we took away from this process? So that's one of the first ones is you got to be comfortable with ambiguity, right? You got to be comfortable that not everything is going to be perfect. Not everything is going to be exactly what you think it's going to be. And to me, I think when you embrace ambiguity, you embrace an opportunity to provide significant value, right? Looking back over building high growth businesses, right? For me, it was always like when things were going, I said, okay, this is my moment. Let me find my clarity in chaos, right? That's another important point when it's ambiguity. Like, find that clarity, find that place where you can say, okay, I know this is the situation that we're dealing with. Maybe you just lost a big customer. Maybe you just lost a customer that was like 15% of your revenue, right? Think about finance team. You lost that customer. You lost that customer that's 15% of your revenue. Okay, we lost it. How do we need what is the strategies we need to set out? Why did we lose it? Is there any way we can get the customer back? Like, go into finding that clarity when chaos is happening. Another great example is look at the pandemic that happened. And it's crazy that I think this is like what year dropping. This is year 4 now since the pandemic, right? I think, yeah. So the pandemic happened 4 years ago, which is that just doing that in my head is crazy. That's crazy that the pandemic was 4 years ago. But think about finance teams during that. I was at a high growth SaaS company, international marketing platform company at the time, right? When the pandemic happened, and we exclusively sold one of our 2 primary verticals was retail and e-commerce, right? And specifically with retail, a lot of our clients had bricks and mortars. They had physical stores, right? That was a big presence that they had. Imagine waking up one day and everything is closed. That uncertainty that we had, I mean, that was no doubt about it. as a finance leader in a very chaotic time, that was probably one of the most challenging moments to embrace ambiguity. I remember waking up every day and it was like, okay, like, what are we doing? Right? We had X amount of customers, and I remember sitting on calls with the sales organization, sitting on calls with client success, like sitting on calls with the executive leadership team. Like, what are we doing to make sure we preserve this? Every day we woke up intentional about that, right? But I share that as an example because that's where embracing ambiguity, we were able to get through that. Some companies, some finance leaders looked at that as an opportunity to say, this is where I can level up. This is where I can get outside of the stereotype of constantly chasing being perfect, right? And I can embrace I can embrace change. And when I embrace change, I embrace it from a learning mindset, and I also embrace it from a mindset of how can I learn, how can I support, right? And how can I bring clarity, right? How can I bring clarity for operations? CFO, right? Yeah, that was nice how that tied in, right? Yeah, you like, Chris, that's a one-liner, right? That's like that's like a bar. I just dropped a bar right there, right? But no, that's one of the most important things is bringing that clarity for operations. I honestly think the role of what I call fresh CFOs of the future, we got to bring clarity for operations. That is top level skill set. When we can bring clarity for operations, we're superpowers, right? But a lot of that starts is we got to be comfortable that some of that clarity is going to be amongst chaos, right? You've got to hear that right noise when there's chaos going on, right? So to me, that is that third element of it. And that's more of a skill set perspective, right? So